Welcome to the future of payroll and workforce management insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello, everyone. And welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com. And we are at Dayforce Discover, Dayforce's annual user conference, customer conference here in Las Vegas at the Wynn, very, very swanky hotel. And my guest today is John Kostoulas, who is Vice President of Market Positioning and Strategy here at Dayforce. Welcome, John.
My pleasure, Brent. It's great to be together and to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We've run into each other many times over the years at the various events in this market of HCM, and you've been in this space for a while. And I like to ask all my guests at the outset of these episodes is what kind of got you into HCM? What's a little bit of your background? What gets you motivated every day when it comes to the world of work, John?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know what? I've been 25 years in this space. I still love it like it's day one. And obviously the reason is that I'm passionate about people, really. So more and more technology helps solve people's problems at work.
Mm-hmm.
So now the more I get into this area, and I have worked as a practitioner, so I've rolled up my sleeves, implemented systems, and worked as a practitioner in large enterprises, or I've been on the vendor side, and then many years as an analyst at Gartner. It is exactly that people can do work so much better
Mm-hmm.
when technology gives them the right tools
Mm-hmm.
for the job. So that keeps me motivated. Like every now and then we have new technologies coming up, and the technologies can put us one step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So how we can make the best to happen with each stream of technology we've got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's equipping people in the world of work with technology, as opposed to maybe applying the wrong technology or getting in the way, just making it be a real asset to folks. I love that idea, and that's and it's really important. And now today we're going to talk a little bit about global payroll, which is where a lot of technology can be applied. Obviously, there's been a lot of innovation in the space over the past several years. I like to say global payroll is one of those, and this isn't, there's some gray area here, but I like to say, global payroll is not something you can necessarily have in place until you absolutely need it. It's not one of these things that you can kind of have there ahead of time. All of a sudden you're there and, oh gosh, I need global payroll. And what does that even mean? And all this kind of stuff. And then we're going to talk today a little bit about the art of the possible when it comes to global payroll, right? And you and I were talking in the green room. We're not a late night talk show here on at Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, but we do have a green room. I'm kind of colorblind. I'm not sure if that's more red behind us, but in any event. We were talking about this. What are some of the things that are possible in global payroll? What are some of the things that an globally expanding organization should take into account when they want to sort of devise or put together an approach to global payroll that makes sense for them?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I think there is a number of things here to say. First, payroll is something that organizations have to provide, no matter the number of jurisdictions they operate or how fast they are expanding, or whether they have 2 people or 5,000 people. And then the question is, what are the main drivers to make decisions about payroll technologies or payroll services? What is the business case behind those? And I've seen also in my own journey in in the area of human capital management and payroll, the needle to move gradually from this to be just cost.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we get the cheapest solution we can get out there,
Yeah.
to how we can best manage the intersection of, yes, cost still matters, but also risk of compliance.
Yeah.
Even better, of non-compliance.
Yeah.
And finally, getting employee experience to be consistent across all these different places we go. And then I would add to these three factors more and more the need, particularly in an era where we have a lot of like economic uncertainty and organizations are trying to streamline their finances, how we can make fast decisions based on data.
Yeah.
So these four factors, I would say, are kind of the determinants of the business case to say, okay, I can still go with what I've got, because obviously there is a solution in place for each of the countries any organization has, and the need to move to a more holistic solution that can deliver on those four areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I want to go back to the risk compliance piece of it, right? Because these are all sort of questions that any organization should ask itself about when it just comes to payroll, period. But as you start to get global in your footprint as an organization, payroll considerations complicate. They become more complex, and these same questions become more clear and present. And they become, very, very urgent, or they grow urgent over time. So let's talk about a little bit more about the risk compliance, right? The regulatory topography across, continents, it varies widely and wildly. We'll just say widely and wildly, use both words, right? It can get crazy, right? And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's also we were talking about earlier, you and I, John, about this idea of probabilistic, getting all tongue tied, probabilistic. What, in terms of, what are the chances of actually running afoul of any given regulatory statute, of, not being able to do what any governing statutory authority says you should, A, and B, of getting caught, right? And there's always, and there's a perception here, right, that, well, we'll be okay, right? But it's always there. And how, how can an organization think about these sort of, abstract, they're abstract, and they're also very, very much there. How can an organization think about that risk mitigation, that risk compliance, and get it right?
I would say there is a number of things here. So, first of all, it is abstract, but it's very tangible.
Yeah.
So not managing compliance means things like fines, but it also can mean things like reputational damage. So because of practices you follow with payroll in one place, then you can become a story. And this takes a lot more time and effort and money to offset. The other thing I want to say, because very often we focus on payroll and we think about payroll calculation and post-payroll activities, but there is a lot before that.
Yeah.
So there is also the interplay between payroll and time. And I'm so fascinated that, how this has gotten broken over the years.
Yeah.
But one definitely works with another. There is also the aspect of benefits that eventually have payroll impact, because many of them are paid through payroll, and their cost also plays together with the cost of providing payroll. And there is also the aspect of data that relates to life events, and they would be part of whatever core system an organization is using. So when we say payroll, actually we mean more things that, if they are separate or they are fragmented or if they are broken,
Mm.
then eventually lead to this downstream issue of non-compliance.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're absolutely right about that. It is, global payroll. When it comes to global expansion for organizations, payroll attracts all the paparazzi, right? It was, oh yeah, we got to get these global payroll systems. It's something a lot of companies will sort of, they'll market, promote their solutions for global payroll, and that's all fine and dandy. But we hear much less about global workforce management systems. To what extent can we sort of overlay over a global footprint some normalcy or consistency through, maybe even just like a core WFM there, just to kind of a backbone, a WFM backbone that everything can kind of plug into. So there's a lot more to consider there.
Yes, exactly. And as I said, this is one thing that I believe very often we get to as a blind spot. So thinking about payroll calculation only.
Mm,
And you know what? I mean, across the globe, and particularly for those that are very cost conscious, then in many countries they can find local solutions at a fraction of the cost. But it's not just this last mile.
mhm,
It is what happens before that. So we spoke about live events, we spoke about benefits, we spoke about time, we spoke about how they flow downstream to payroll, but it's also how all this data, as reflected to payroll, also influence decisions
mhm,
about what to do.
yeah.
So one thing that I would see more and more, so besides like compliance, is the need to be able to bring all this analytics together
Hmm.
in order to make decisions. So organizations face different decisions daily on where to expand,
Mm,
where to contract, what types of people do we need.
mm,
Very often they have global operations and they say where it makes more sense to deploy. And then it is also about the cost of compliance. It's also about the risk of compliance. It is also about, what other microeconomic or workforce factors are in the game. So if it takes them forever to just
yeah.
put the data together in order to reach a conclusion, then they are already very late in the game. So, so add to the risk of compliance, which is always a factor,
Mm,
the risk of just taking too much time to respond to what's
mhm,
going on out there.
mhm. And maybe even still having the wrong information.
Oh, yes,
Or
absolutely.
or insufficient data to make a well-informed decision to move that organization in the best direction possible. And this really comes down to, because there's all sorts of ways to run a global payroll. You can run a global payroll very inefficiently. You can get it done. You can have a lot of people just throw a lot of people at it, right? And just get it done every pay period. But you're depriving yourself of that real-time data that's going to make you a better organization. But if you have sort of a central nervous system, sort of I keep saying core, I don't mean core HR, but like a core pay or backbone payroll system that can be fed into as easily as that fairly easily can be ported into by all the local payroll providers and all that, then you're a step ahead of that just complete pandemonium that I described a moment ago, right? But we were talking a little bit about, there's there's sort of there are gradations here. You can get some stuff really under the auspices or the aegis of one system, and then some systems can be easily ported into the system, and then there's the rest. And that's where we kind of came up with this idea of the art of the possible when it comes to global payroll. Could you just describe that three-step process there a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great question, by the way. And the way we approach this question is exactly, let's start from, first of all, what drives success in payroll in the way we describe this. Can I get compliance? Can I get analytics? Can I maximize employee experience?
Hmm.
So we start by thinking, okay, where and how we can bring those components together. That's why at Dayforce we have a single platform.
Yeah.
So we're not bringing chunks together and just moving data around. We have them in the same data model, inside the same system, with the same user experience.
Mm-hmm.
And this includes a number of native engines that we have. We have some tens of native engines across the globe.
Mm.
So we want to create critical mass of master data, of time data, of native payrolls, and then the corresponding user experience as a starting point. So we're not just connecting local payrolls. Obviously, for organizations that do this in 50, 100, or 200 countries, we need to think about the art of the possible. And even when we have partner payroll solutions, which we have, the question is, how can we bring them together inside the same backbone, with the same user experience, with the same way to derive analytics? So our solution is, first, let's create critical mass in the best way we can, because we understand that payroll is driven by a lot more data than just payroll data. But when we have to deliver partner engines, then bring them together inside the same infrastructure so that we're not compromising user experience, we're not compromising analytics, we don't compromise consistency also of payroll processes global organizations are following.
Yeah. I love it. It made me also think there's a critical mass of that critical mass, or that central mass. There's a central mass of there's enough density there. Not to get too far into the metaphor here, right? Physics, but I mean, and I'm not a physicist. Just so everyone knows, I'm not. Definitely not. But there's a center mass there that's enough, and so that when you're porting in the other stuff, like this stuff on the periphery, which are, those partners, the LPPs that aren't that don't port nicely into the backbone, right? You're not just connecting everything to everything. There's a center, and you're connecting to that. And so there's a little bit more, that to me feels like a better way to set yourself up for more consistency in global payroll.
Yes, as I said, it depends very much on the number of countries. So as I say, today we can cover a good number of some tens of countries all the way, including payroll calculation. And then when we think about the rest, one thing that we have central, or even if we think about like somebody bringing their own like payroll provider, is like how we can make sure it doesn't end up being a patchwork of different systems that need bespoke integrations. They bring in bespoke data that we need to fetch from somewhere else to understand what is the total payroll cost picture across the globe.
Yeah.
So bringing them to the same place, because at the end of the day, yes, every country has its own compliance needs and its own calculation engine, but the need for compliance in general, or employee experience or analytics, they are the same all over the world. And they are eventually the part that global payroll professionals or CHROs or CFOs, like both of them look into payroll, depending on where the payroll belongs to, they take into account to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. We could talk about global payroll, I think, for all day long, John.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Brent. I enjoyed the conversation. Yes, indeed, we could speak for a couple more hours. I don't know whether you folks have the time to listen, but I hope you found this conversation interesting and useful.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at hr.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.